very long. In our relationships, if I call my family and say, hey, so-and-so and I are having problems and we're going to split up, oh, phew. You know, I mean, there's no sense of, oh, gee, that's too bad. It's almost a relief.
It's hard. It's really hard. It's not like you can call up and say, you know, Mom, I'm in love. Or call up and burst into tears and say, Mom, I just, you know, got dumped. And I think that's really a painful thing. I think it's harder than, I think it's more painful than I realize at times, or that most people realize. I think we tend to sort of push it aside and say, well, it doesn't matter. But it really does matter a lot.
Imagine my surprise. I love that I found you, but I ache all over wanting to know your every dream. Imagine my surprise to find that I love you, feeling warm all over, knowing that you've been alive.
Lesbians and gay men, while sexual, are often thought of as only sexual, and so are thought of as sort of wildly sexual persons in a way that somehow makes straight or heterosexual students think of lesbians and gays as really very different.
I think the strongest myths are that gay relationships are purely physical and that sex is the only thing involved. I've run into a lot of that, where people think that gay people have sex but they don't have feelings toward one another, that it's just strictly a physical thing. And that's really terrible, I think, you know, because it's obvious. I mean, if you're a human being, you're going to feel for other human beings.
I actually heard somebody make this comment last week that oh, that person's gay, well then he's going to try and get me into bed, you know, because they, you know, which I think for a lot of straight people that would actually, it's an egotistical thing for them to assume.
I really like men and have men friends, and that's fine. It just so happens that I prefer to have sexual relations with women and to be intimate with women.
Some people just look at you and they think, what a waste, and I hear women say that a lot about gay men.
Yeah, he's so cute.
Oh, what a waste. And it's not like we're trash.
Right.
You know, I could say the same thing about a straight woman. Oh, gosh, she's so beautiful. What a waste.
You have.
And, you know, I'm sure they wouldn't appreciate that being compared to trash. Right. And that's what I equate that with.
Yeah, it's an offshoot of homophobia and saying that straight relationships are the legitimate model. Anything else is totally illegitimate. I've heard that before, and to put it bluntly, I'm sure it'll be edited out, but I think the most common assumption is all you need is one good fuck from a man, and that'll somehow cure you.
He was sexually harassing me when I first started working there, and was interested in me as a partner, a sex partner. I wasn't, of course, obviously interested. He needed a lot of educating, and so once he realized that here I am, this lesbian now, and I'm not a potential sex partner, that now he wanted to share all his locker room stuff with me, thinking that because I like women, that I must be interested in what he does with women. Quite the contrary.
It's not okay to say a sexist joke, to say a racist joke, but it's okay to say something about gays and lesbians that's derogatory.
I spoke for a class on a gay panel in human sexuality, and I noticed people in the back room making obscene gestures with their hands, you know, and I unfortunately happened to have them in a history class the same evening. And they sat behind me deliberately, and I heard comments under their breath for 3 hours about fag, he's queer, he's a homo, and real obscene descriptions of what I like to do in bed, supposedly. So that's probably the worst thing, and it really hurts because, you know, this is what I am, and I have no problem with it, but other people seem to have problems with it.
Leaving one of the dining commons, I had food thrown at me by several young men or boys, and they yelled, "Dyke."
The thing that I hate the most is right now on campus, the new sort of slur, sort of derogatory term for something that's not very nice or very cool is fag, or that's so gay.
When I was a kid, I think it was racial slurs was the put down. No matter what race you were, whatever, if they wanted to say something bad about you, it would be a racial slur. Now it's, oh, that's gay. That's so gay. And I mean, that's the worst thing that one kid could say to another kid in elementary school. My daughter knows that I'm gay, and she has since she could think. And she's proud of me, and she loves me. And I can only imagine what that feels like to her, to have other kids calling other kids gay in a using it in a way to hurt each other.
On Del Playa, one of the most common ways in which an argument can get started is when a person will say to another, "Boy, that jacket looks kind of faggy to me," or "Only a faggot would walk that way," or something like that, and then usually results in fistfights, because that's the intolerable insult.
Dear God, is there somebody out there? Is there someone to hear my prayer? I'm a simple man with simple words to say. Is there some point in asking for more? Only God is where we are today.
Some flyers were being distributed around campus saying that if your roommate was gay, he was going to give you AIDS.
People assume that, you know, AIDS is a gay disease. It can be fashionable to be sort of anti-gay, and you can kind of cloak it in this safety concern.
4 years ago, it became very obvious that someone on the campus needed to talk about AIDS in an academic environment and needed to be able to provide a historical, social, cultural analysis of AIDS and its impact on the communities which are most affected. What I've done is design a course, The Sociology of AIDS. In the context of that course, one of the startling things for me was to discover and hear the homophobia that was expressed. There I got a better sense than I ever had before of the fear many people had, not so much about AIDS, but about really coming face to face with lesbians and gay men and accepting the love and the relationships of lesbians and gay men.
I don't care what other people do in bed. Why should they care what I do in bed? That's certainly not going to affect my performance on the job. It's certainly not going to affect my performance in a classroom. I think a lot of homophobia in the straight community comes from their insecurity with their own sexuality, because I think a lot of people, you know, they can see themselves doing it, and they're afraid of that within themselves because society tells them that it's wrong, and when they see that within themselves, they have to react, and we're very good targets for that.
Reality that we have to face as openly gay grad students going into academia, which is has sort of, on the one hand, an image, universities have an image of being bastions of liberal thinking, but anybody who's involved in academia knows that it's still a very conservative institution and is rampant with